All right, everybody. I think we've given enough time here, so if others join in, I think that'll be good timing. So, well, thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar. We're going to get started here in 2 seconds. As soon as I figure out how to use technology. All right. Well, hopefully everybody can see my screen getting into it, and I think it just showed up for everybody. So. Well, welcome. My name is Robert Saleh. I'm the General Manager of MCF Tech, and we're really excited to have everybody on the call today as we go through and begin talking about one of our brand new add-ons called the MCF Translator. So there's been a lot of demand out in the marketplace, I think, for some multi-language UI capability. So we're really excited to present this to you to kind of go on through and answer your questions as they come up at the end. So we're going to jump into it. Save your questions for the end, and that way we'll allow Kris here to kind of walk through everything. But just some quick logistics. If you don't mind, we're going to keep everybody on mute. That way we can not disrupt any of the speakers and anything that's going through. But yeah, certainly if you do have questions, please use the chat functionality. We'll be monitoring that. Or certainly, like I mentioned, we'll have some time at the end of the call. I certainly don't think this is going to take a whole hour, so I'm sure we'll end a little early. And we'll obviously ask questions and use the time effectively if anyone has anything to ask for Kris since he's on the call today. So thank everybody for joining us here. So as I mentioned, Kris Taylor, he's going to be the one walking you through the demo. See all kinds of nooks and crannies and even some cases and use cases there. We're going to give just a quick brief MCF introduction and maybe some things you may not know about who we are. This is going to be really a start of a series of webinars, and we're probably going to have another one, if not at the end of the month, early in March, on another solution and add-on. So if you're not signed up for our newsletter, we're going to be presenting and promoting them there, as well as on our website, which we're going to show a little bit in brief history of here real quick. So, and then we're going to jump right into the demo, as most of us are here for that today. So thanks again, and let's get into it. So MCF Tech, for those that may be clients today or may not have done any business with MCF, I want to make sure just to cover at a high level of who we are. It's always difficult to kind of put everything on one slide to paint the picture of it, but we do our best. Really, when we look at MCF and across the board, I mean, we are a QuickBase solutions provider, but we also offer a lot more. We want to be considered the one-stop shop there for advanced services and even other platforms such as SharePoint and other arenas that are really kind of add-ons to QuickBase. Quite often we get approached for integrations and other solutions that make sense, such as Esri technology and anything else that might be a plug-in to it, to definitely offer services around development in those systems as well. So hopefully we're there to kind of meet your needs across the board, but when it comes to QuickBase, we do have, if you see at the top of capacity, 22 certified QuickBase individuals on staff. We're very excited to have that, as that is the largest percentage of certified developers of any QSP that's out there. So a lot of expertise out there, but just having a lot of capacity doesn't mean you're the best in the system. So we really want to back that up. We want to make sure that we have a comprehensive approach along with other certifications throughout. So you guys can see really our SOC 2 compliance that we take very, very seriously around security that is available out there. And we've done a lot of solutions around governance in general. So that would be an area that we'll be having a future webinar in the future for that. We also have 3 Lean Six Sigma Black Belts on staff. We do a lot of consultation up front, and even before we do any clicking for development, it's not uncommon to do a multi-day on-site Kaizen to really take a look at your business processes and assess the situation and decide what is the best technology that's going to fit that need and go through that process. So a lot of different areas, and then just to kind of wrap this up, I mean, we obviously need the capability to support all of this. And we're going to go through one of our add-ons here, the MCF Translator. We have over 20 plus solutions and services available, along with a variety of partners available that really supplement what we're offering to our clients. So I do encourage everybody on this call, and we'll revisit it, to visit our website here at the end. And as I try to get out of the slideshow here to show everybody. but within our website, I do encourage everyone to take a look at it. Within there, you're going to see a lot of pages that we've just really developed and launched a brand new website, so we're excited to show this as well. But around advanced logging, DocuSign integrations, Gantt and schedulers, S3 syncs, schema tools, and a whole lot more. So take time, review, and understand really all we have to offer, and we really want to partner with our clients to bring the best solution for you. So with that being said, I think it probably makes sense, Kris, is to really begin teeing you up and getting you on the docket to begin showing this demo as I start the slideshow all over again. So just to kind of set the stage here for Kris as we get into this, what we've come across in terms of use cases is really a situation where somebody within the States or an English-speaking country is developing applications. They have access to the admin side of things. They're developing out the portals and all the forms and all of the fields, etc. And being a global supply chain market that we're in, we need somebody in another country to use the application. And quite often, the hope a lot of times is that they are English speaking and they can read it across seas, but sometimes it would be nice to show in a different language the field labels, etc., and making that work for you. So in the past, really within QuickBase UI, the hope and kind of the approach would obviously use Google Translate or whatever it is, but that is only as effective as it possibly can be. There's a lot of dialect issues, UTF-8 issues that transpire, and we've done a lot of research and R&D to tee this solution up, and we're confident even as we continue to grow this solution and add-on, we're going to continue to invest and make this even better, but we're already beginning to see a lot of interest with this solution. We're beginning to implement and finalize a lot of projects around that. So we do see a bigger need, and as more and more supply chains become global, this is only going to become more important to it. So we're going to take time. We're going to walk through some of the interfaces there. We're going to show you an admin portal on how you're going to manage the translations for that. And we're just going to kind of do a high level of a use case of adding things into that, and I'll let Kris speak more to it. But afterwards, we're going to certainly talk about the costs associated with this, just to kind of give everybody a high level, and then obviously how to engage with us from there. So Kris, hopefully that's a good lead in, and I will let you kind of take it over from here as I make you presenter.
All right, thanks Rob, and I'm sharing my screen now. Let me know when you're able to see that.
I can see it now.
Okay, great. So this is an application that we've developed here that incorporates the translator functionality. I wanted to start off in this view as this is showing us the Chinese translation of the application. A few things to kind of point out with the capabilities of this of the translation tool that we have is when we set up the translations in our portal, virtually everything in the application will get translated. So you'll notice the buttons up here at the top for your favorites and search, so forth, are translated. You'll see information, all the tabs, across for your QuickBase environment are translated. Within the application, you get your table ribbon translated. So the name of each one of the tables within the application. And then as we drill down into the dashboard, you'll notice that the report titles can be translated for each one of the reports that we have. And this is on the table report. I have two graph, pie chart and a bar chart report here that's translated. And the data is translated as well, so you see the X and Y axis being translated here for us. So we really have the power to go in and translate virtually any field or value within the application.
And Kris, is it safe if it's not translated here, that we just have not put it in the portal, and that's why you're seeing some English and Chinese?
Correct. So the portal all works off of definition. So we define what the English word is, and then what the language translation, be it Chinese, Spanish, Russian, French, what have you. So most of the information in here has been translated. There's some pieces in here that I haven't entered translations for, such as like the new record, translation portal, etc. Now, another key note to this is you can have multiple translation libraries set up. So if you have offices in France and offices in China, Mexico, what have you, you can set up any of those translations within the application. And then that's all ran off of a user's or resources table where you indicate what user should view in what language. To show you that control here, I'm going to actually switch over to English for myself, and then we can take a deeper look at this application. If I go in here, I'm just going to edit this record, and I'm going to edit me, let's say not selected. So if I don't select a language, it's going to default to the English version of the application. And jump back out to home. And now you can see everything in here in English. So our home page chart, our home page bar, a list all report. You can see this basic project management application. So we have clients, projects, and tasks. And if we drill in, we can kind of see the fields that are here. So we have a standard table homepage report. I can go in and view the MCF Tech company. In here, we see the list of projects that are associated, basic information for the company, name, contact, phone, and email. We do have the relationship between projects, so we have the table here, embedded report, as well as the add project button. And then as we drill in, some additional information. And this is just to show you, as we go through in other languages here, the information that we're looking at. So again, on the project, we have lookup values for the company name, contact, phone, and email. Then we have our project-specific information, so our project name, project description, so forth, and as well as these calculated values for the project start and project end, which are driven off of the task, start and end date. And then we also have our tasks set up here, another lookup from the project name, and then just basic task information. So another piece that we, to really manage this translation, it really is comprised of two tables here. And we have a languages table, which that will list out all the languages that we're going to support within the application. I'll navigate to that. You'll see this application here. We have Chinese, Russian, and Spanish. And then we have our resources. So this is a resources table. We utilize a user field there. And then a technique that we have where we can identify who the user is that's currently logged in. So as you see, it identifies me as the current user. And if I go in and edit this record, again, this is where I can go through and select which language I want to view this in. Right now, I'm going to switch this over to Spanish. I'll save that record, and then I'll go back home. And now you'll notice we're viewing the information here in Spanish. So again, the report headers or labels, they've been translated. Each one of the column headings within the table report has been translated. We have the X and Y axis translated on the report. And then again to note, anything that you see that's in English here is essentially something we don't have a translation entered for. And I'm actually going to walk you through in just a moment on how we can edit those translations or add additional translations to our library and see how quick and easy that is and how quickly that gets updated within the QuickBase system or application. So from here, I'm going to go in, look at one of our projects, and we again drill in through the clients. You'll notice here, again, all the column headers for the report have been translated. We've also translated these buttons and links at the top, our customized page, email, grid edit, add new client, all of that information is able to be translated here. As I drill into the company, again, we see all the headers or all the field labels being translated, section headers being translated, all of the buttons within the embedded report, as far as being able to view the full report, grid edit, so forth. That's edited. That's all translated, as well as our buttons to add a new project.
Even the very bottom of that, where it just says the date and user signed in and stuff.
Correct. So all that footer information is as long as we have that in the library for translation, that will all get translated within the system. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to edit this project. And so you'll see the edit form here. Again, we have our drop down here to relate the client. All the lookup information for the selected client. Again, all the field labels have been translated, as well as the drop-down values. So this here for our project status, if I go in and hit that drop-down, you can see we have everything translated in there for planning in progress, canceled, and completed. Now, one thing I do notice is that this estimated cost field label, that has not been translated yet. Okay? And it's really simple to go in and make those translations within the system. And I'll actually do this right through the home page. We have a button for our translation portal. I'll go ahead and launch that. And within this translation portal, we've got a couple different options. So initially, once we've set up the application, we'll update the translation schema. This tells the portal the schema or the configuration of your application, the tables, the fields, etc. We can manage our existing translations, and then we can import and export translations. So if you want to go in and bulk edit, you can export your translations down into a CSV file. You can come in and make any adjustments you need to on multiple lines of the translation, and then you can import that CSV file back up into the portal. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to manage an existing translation, and I know this doesn't exist yet, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a translation. I'm going to select for our translator application that we've been viewing so far. We'll select it as a UI element. Do that in Spanish, and we'll select estimated cost. We'll put our translated text in. I'm going to hit OK. And now it gives me the option where I can either commit this save and push that information back, for the application to use, or if I click no, it'll allow me to add additional translations. And go ahead and click yes. It's going to process and push that new translation out for our application to use. And now if I go back into our project, and let me go into the Russian translation, and you'll notice now estimated cost has already been updated. So virtually real time. We do have a push, but there's very little to no lag involved with that. Instant update, get the translation in, and really with very few clicks and entries to go through and update that library for you.
Yeah, and I think you see some delay too because the GoToMeeting always uses up a lot of bandwidth too. So
it definitely does. So overall, even given any of the bandwidth issues we may have with sharing, it's still a very quick process to update and to manage those translations. And so you see from here, all the information has been translated. And then if I go back out to this project, just to call this out also, that estimated cost column, that has been updated as well. So globally throughout the application, that translation's been updated. So with that, a couple things to mention in this. So as Rob had stated earlier, this system in use case is primarily for those who are based in the U.S., developing, administering the applications within the U.S. and in English, and then have users overseas that are accessing in additional languages. So with that being said, this still utilizes and still displays English text within these free-form fields. Now, in the case, in a lot of cases, agents or reps overseas can still fill everything out in English. In the cases where they are filling out in a foreign language, we can also go through, create a translation library for, say, Spanish to English, and then that information, they can go through, enter the information within their form in Spanish, and then when we view it in English, then it would be translated back. The big thing to note there with that is this does look for an exact match within the translation. So this sentence, we would actually set that up as a complete string within the library, and then the translation for that. And that way you can get the information going back, one way or going both ways. Excuse me.
And we've seen some use cases where maybe clients want to use multiple fields, want to show it in Spanish, English, etc. If there's just one or two languages. I mean, we've seen multiple use cases. I think it's important to note that we're not trying to reinvent Google Translate. It's not going to be an automatic translation. However, there's absolutely ways that we can help assist to get that translation to come in if you ultimately want those text fields to be there. It's about taking a look at the ROI and the process of what we need to do.
Absolutely. So, at this point, I think we've covered pretty well through the translation capabilities of the app. We've seen the application in Chinese. We've seen it in English. We've gone through the application front to back. We've seen it translated into Spanish, gone through the portal, and shown how we can go and update or manage the translations and the translation library, and how quickly that information gets updated in the application. Rob, is there anything that you've noticed that we may have accidentally skipped over or not called out specifically?
Yeah, there's actually two things that I want to address, but I'm actually going to open it up before we get into those areas that might be a little bit more technical. Anybody that's on the line, is there any questions of what you've seen right now? We'll kind of open it up for a brief period of Q&A and make sure that we're answering all questions right now, and we'll certainly kind of navigate the demo as you see fit. So please use the chat, or please unmute yourself at this point, and we'll definitely get your questions answered. So we got one question here, Kris. I'll read it to you because I know you're sharing your screen, but the question is, how about translating the back end? For example, if you go in and to modify the form layout, is that able to be translated?
At this point, the administrative side of QuickBase has not been fully translated. There are pieces that we have began updating, through the application settings. There is obviously a bit of work to go in and add all the translations within the library, but we have developed a portion of that code and are developing that side. Really up until this point, the primary focus has been the front end for the users, being the use case was US-based or English-speaking based admin with overseas users. But absolutely, with anything like that, as the need arises, and if there is a case like that, we can go in and add that type of functionality to the application.
Yeah, I'm going to add in a little bit more to that answer, Kris. So right now, when we see the demand out in the market and the use case that we designed this first launch of the tool, we designed it with the use case in mind that we spoke to. Phase 2 of this is absolutely to create an admin-facing portal that is translatable for it. So As of right now, until we get that use case, the matter is where do we spend the R&D dollars for that, or is there a client who's willing to kind of be the guinea pig to kind of go into this together and see? So the answer is it's absolutely translatable. It's a matter of what is the LOE required to do all of that for the use case transpired, or does it just make sense to have somebody who's English speaking create the applications there. So it is on our roadmap. If you have a use case in particular, we will absolutely like to discuss that and see how we can even expedite that research to make sure that that happens. So, all right, so a few other questions coming in here, Kris. So the question is, does the translator also convert currency for the language and the user is selected too? And have it 1 million versus the converted amount in yen, for example, or is it only the interface and field text and such that is translatable? You want me to answer that? I can, or if you want to go ahead and take that.
If you want to take it, you can go ahead, or I mean, either way. I mean, I think the short answer to that is, with these data values within QuickBase, we don't necessarily go in and adjust the values. So going in and having calculations based off of, we enter $80,000 US here. What is that translated into in say yen or what have you? There are some techniques that you can use to manage that type of calculation within the application. So maybe we have a field that would display the US dollars, and then we have a formula field also that could be ran off of a variable for the dollar to yen conversion, and then that will be calculated, and you could see that. But as far as through the code of the translator, we have that set, so it doesn't change the values within the application.
No, I think you answered it exactly how I would, Kris. So, and I think there's other third-party tools that we can integrate into to have like live, because obviously those values tend to change, and there's a potential to integrate into those even to enhance that functionality for multiple fields there. So that'll be a use case to discover in and of itself. So good questions. Are there any other questions out there that we need to respond to? So while you guys think of that, I do encourage, while we have the line, and hopefully we've answered a lot of questions. You guys can see a lot of the value that's in this. I think one in particular piece that Kris, I want to make sure that we address is really the printing and email functionality associated with this. So did you want me to talk through that, or did you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, so I can address that, and then if I leave out anything, definitely speak up. But as soon as I opened it up to questions, I realized immediately what you were going to ask. So yes, with the email and the say report or printing of the QuickBase application. First off, with the email, all of the emails that are sent, notifications, subscriptions, what have you, all of those are processed through the Intuit server, or QuickBase server. And when that happens, it will always go out in English. We are developing a process so that we can go in and have any of those type of emails processed through a converter on the MCF side. So then they would be translated. But the native email functionality right now, it will go out in English. With the printing, we have two options there. So you have the ability to go in, print the record, or print a report through the native QuickBase print function. So if I go in through here and print, it'll give me the couple options how I want to print this out. But the native print will print in English. One alternative to that is if you use the browser print functionality, just doing a Control-P, what have you, then it will print out in the translated text. So that is one way that you can print the translated form or report. And again, that print functionality, we are working on a way to incorporate the native print through the translation as well.
Kris, a few more questions. Is this good for any language that's out there?
So with that, we I'm trying to
Not
think
not not
of the
not
limitations.
yeah, not the printing an email, but any language is that able to be translated within the application.
Trying to come across a case where we have not been able to translate. I know, obviously with the character set, Chinese was one of the more difficult ones that we had, but really with the translation library and the portal that we have now, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Rob, as long as we're able to go in and set the character translation or the word translation within the portal, we should be able to translate.
Yeah, that's correct. Any language, a lot of the questions we get is really around Chinese characters, Japanese characters, UTF-8, Arabic becomes a complex language, but all are translatable within this tool. So we have not come across a use case that we have not been able to translate. Not to say those don't exist, you never know when they pop up, but we have not come across that use case yet, and we've been trying it on the most complex languages that are available out there. So that's why we're pretty excited about this to begin launching it. Kris, another question came in is, can the translation libraries apply to multiple applications?
Yes, and with that, we are setting these translations application specific. Now, I believe, we should be able to go in under certain circumstances. We may be able to make some modifications to that, if the case arises where we do need to support multiple applications. But as far as we see right now, in this case, when we set up the translation in the portal, it was specific to this translator POC application.
And one of the things that I was going to address as well on one of the slides, if there's no more questions, was really around the cost of this. And you guys will begin to see at any time when we engage clients, we always need to start with a requirements, understanding, and discovery. And those are some of the questions that we need to ask as well up front is how many applications does this need to be in, how many languages, how complex is this app, and that's the understanding that we need to get from it. If there is a multiple app use case, yes, we can make that and we can make that work for it, but we need to investigate to see what's going on, multiple realms, is it just one app, and how does this hub and spoke model need to look to be able to manage the users in the case. So really those are the items that really dictate the cost of really, does this become a simple translation app and go through, or do we need the multiple app translation libraries. So this is great, guys. We really do appreciate the questions that are coming in here. And so we have a client that has multiple apps with cross-app relationships. French users will be using one or more of the related apps, while English users will also be using the same apps. So absolutely, I think this is something that we need to map out and make sure that we identify the solution that fits for you. So Josh, absolutely, I'd say after the call, let's probably set up some time and we can definitely talk through this and see what's the solution that makes sense. So we can definitely take a look at it. I think we've answered all the questions, giving everybody a little bit more time. Kris, I thought this was great. I think, is there anything else here? On the left side, I don't think you've talked about the filters much, but you can see also there that the filters are translated on the left-hand side there as well, since I'm looking at your screen.
Correct, yes. It does pick up the label for the dynamic filter, so we can go in and see that translated.
All right. Well, I think the questions out there is how much does this cost and why isn't this free yet and stuff. So can you give me the rights back? I don't know if I can just take that over, or can you make me presenter?
All right, you should have presenter.
Well, hopefully you guys can see my screen, and as we begin to kind of wrap up the webinar, really the question here is, well, what's the ROI? What are we looking at in terms of implementation and going through? So obviously each use case is unique and different, as I talked about, and we do need to do some upfront discovery to understand what is the use case, what's going on. In terms of the translations, I think one of the questions you need to ask yourself, because we are maintaining libraries, is who's going to create the libraries for that. On one case, you can easily take the fields and do an export and and do Google Translates, but you also want to make sure that the dialect is correct, and you want to make sure that it makes sense there for the languages and not just take that for granted. So I think the question is, a lot of times we see clients that they want to do the translations themselves, have somebody there within those countries to make that, or if you want us to do that, we absolutely can, but it will be an additional cost there that we can add into the overall project to make sure to get you guys up and running, and then you guys can manage the translations from there if you like, or certainly come back to us for that. So as the question came up beforehand, is it one or multiple applications? And that's really kind of what makes sense in terms of the complexity. Traditionally, we see these projects range anywhere between 3 and 10,000, really coming in on the lower side of that because it's been really single applications that we've seen the majority of. So overall, I think it's a very cost-efficient add-on that we can provide for this use case, and making sure that it fits into your needs, and is usually a relatively quick project to get everybody signed up. It's just really sometimes a matter of getting the translations that sometimes takes a long time. So, in addition to the upfront cost, there is a recurring fee. It is based upon the number of users that is in the application per month. It really ranges around $1 to $2 in between there with discounts as there's more users within the application. So this helps us to manage the scripts and everything that is written to manage that admin portal, as well as licensing of the tool to be used within the system. So, and that is a recurring fee that occurs. But outside of that, those are really the main costs. We did talk about the emails and the print functionality. If those are areas that we need to pursue, again, those are some of the obstacles there using Intuit's backend and stuff. So we need to come up with other solutions around that we need to talk through. So those potentially could be extra costs. That's what we need to kind of vet into and talk with you during the discoveries. So. And that's really kind of the process that we take. The upfront discoveries are $500 to kind of map it out, but outside of that, that's really just getting the final estimate in fee and cost for that. So I don't think I put that up there as a slide. But hopefully that helps to kind of gauge, to kind of give you guys a rough idea of what some of the costs are looking like. Chris, is there anything there on that slide that you'd like to speak to? Or you think that really factors it in all?
I think you covered pretty much everything there. Nothing that I can think of.
All right, everybody. That pretty much wraps up the webinar as it is today. We will certainly stick around to answer any other questions that you may have. You can certainly visit our website or contact us via email. That will certainly take your questions that way. In addition, for those that are QuickBase users, there is the Empower Conference that is upcoming. We will be there as a gold sponsor, and we'll certainly be showcasing the translator capabilities and answering any questions there. So if you are going to be in attendance, we'll absolutely entertain that, but that's a little bit while away. So until then, please feel free to reach out, and all the clients that are on the call today is going to be put into a raffle for a free 1-hour consultation. So keep a lookout for that, and we're going to be sending out those instances probably, what's today, Thursday, early next week, if not by the end of the week in terms of wrapping it up. So that concludes. If there's any other questions, we will stick on, but outside of that, thank you everybody for your time. I hope this was beneficial. And on behalf of MCF, we look forward to engaging with everybody. And if we spoke other languages, we would. But appreciate it. And auf Wiedersehen. Thank you, everyone.